All right, we are live. 4 people watching already. Maybe the change in time wasn't such a bad idea. Good morning, David Grishko. It's actually afternoon for me, but hey. Um, all right. And Terrell is here as well. Welcome. And Joe made it. All right, we've got the usual suspects so far. When I write that, it was still morning. Are you feeling better? I am feeling more like myself now. Yes. Maybe not 100% yet, but uh, yeah. Um, no, I didn't get the pot of coffee going. I actually fell asleep watching YouTube in the living room. So, and I didn't set an alarm. So, I didn't wake up in time to make a pot of coffee. So, unfortunately, um, when the water's gone, I may have to go get more water. So, um, all right. So today, um, I've actually got a little bit of a plan for the live stream. Imagine that. I know it's kind of unheard of. Um, I've been kicking around this idea of talking about different Linux distributions, more special purpose Linux distributions. Many of these I have covered on my channel before, some of which I have collected links for videos I've made, and I'll paste those into chat as we go. But yeah, that's kind of the idea for today, is to talk briefly about some of these special purpose Linux distributions. And if people haven't heard of them, it raises awareness, and if people have, then it re-exposes them to them. And yeah, so, and Ron has come in. Welcome. And Tony. All right. We're doing pretty well for a Saturday afternoon, I suppose. Okay, so let's do. We decided that it's better quality if I share the screen through StreamYard. So we'll do that. I've got a fresh browser window open. I'll throw myself up in the corner. And we'll get started with our first one. Now, I'm sure everybody has heard about this before. I've covered Kali Linux on the channel several times, whether a dedicated video or mentioning it in passing. And it's billed as a penetration testing slash security research distribution. Something that a lot of people would use a word that starts with H for this kind of thing. Where I find Kali especially useful is finding new tools, because they do package a bunch of tools together. And most of these you can get on a standard Debian distribution. So, or Debian based distribution. Ubuntu, Linux Mint, etc. So, we all know the deal with Kali. And yeah, not necessarily something you want to throw on a computer and take into Starbucks with you, right? Um, uh, where's the whiteboard? Whiteboard. It's handy to have on wheels. Um, all right, so this is the first special purpose distribution we'll talk about. The next one, number 2, is Daphile. And I probably should do an updated video on this. I'm kind of waiting for them to release the new version. Daphile is a Linux distribution that you can set up for a couple of purposes. Now, if you're old like me, then you probably got into collecting compact discs back in the day. For me, that was 1989 Christmas. Um, so with Daphile, you can take an old PC, you can slap a USB digital to analog converter on it and hook it into your stereo system or amplifier as they show here. It will allow you to rip your music discs to digital format. In this case, they are using FLAC, the free lossless audio codec. And if you wish to convert to something else, there's options. Because it's lossless, you can convert to the audio codec of your choice. I have used this mainly for the CD ripping capabilities. I did instead of using that one for hooking up to the stereo, I use something called Volumio, which I didn't put on my list today, but this company makes some, I guess you could call them high-end music players. The pricing tells me they're high-end, at least in what terms of what I would pay. They're cute. They're made in Italy, so if you have a tie to that, then maybe you want to part with $800 or $1,000 or $1,200. As you can see, these do not have optical disc players built in, so their players don't tend to have ripping capabilities, although if you buy the paid version of Volumio, which I did pick up a copy of, I've got to install my license yet, but you can do CD ripping with this, and it has some interesting features. Again, you can grab their Volumio OS separately, and that does even run on a Raspberry Pi. So if you have the hi-fi hat for a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4, you could use that as your own dedicated media player. So the hi-fi hat, there are a few of these on the market. It has a digital to analog converter. So like this one here, available on the Amazon, is $30. So again, it's one of those things where if you have a Raspberry Pi, you're trying to find a use for it. This is a legit use for Raspberry Pi, and especially if you don't want to spend high dollars for a digital to analog converter for a PC. This is relatively inexpensive, of course, factoring in the cost of the Pi, and you don't have to store the audio files on the Pi. You can store them on a NAS or other machine on your network. So, made it through a couple of these. Let's take a look at chat and see what's happening there. So we have TVJ, welcome. Let's see. Too much to part with for what you're getting. Yep. In my opinion, yeah. I wouldn't buy one of those Volumio players myself when I can, grab a Optiplex Micro or whatever one of the small form factor PCs, a used one, and slap that together with a DAC instead. So I tend to agree with your assessment on that, David. All right, so that got us through the first two. So for number 3, we have Proxmox. You've undoubtedly heard me talk about Proxmox on the channel. Here's a link to my playlist that I've got going on Proxmox. There are going to be more videos coming. There are definitely things that I'm investigating further on Proxmox, always trying to learn a little bit more about it. There's always more you can learn, right? But if you want an alternative to ESXi, which is a popular topic for discussion these days, shall we say, given the dumpster fire that Broadcom has turned VMware into. But if you want an alternative to VMware and want to go forward with that, then Proxmox is not a bad place to go. Excuse me. Other options would include something like XCPNG. You've got Rancher OS out there, based on OpenSUSE. And depending on whether you want straight containers or if you want the option of doing containers and virtual machines. But Proxmox is, especially for home labs, for small businesses, for nonprofits, for learning institutions, so schools that want to give students an exposure to virtualization on the cheap. These are all solid places that you can use Proxmox. And my understanding is that, since they are based out of Europe, it's got a little bit more of a following over there. And this is one of those things where you can get support, but there is a free community edition. And, it scales to anything that I would need it for. I'm sure there are, under their success stories, a lot of these are going to be, European institutions. Well, let's see. City of Philadelphia uses some. Robotics Club, doesn't really see where that's at. Austrian College. About 450 students in 18 classes use the Proxmox cluster. French Odeon Theater. There's a data center usage there. There's one that switched from ESXi to Proxmox. But yeah, there are definitely some mid-size uses of Proxmox. This place uses it in conjunction with Citrix Zen, at least when this was published, which very well could be using XCPNG at this stage of the game. So yeah, there are definitely different size installations of Proxmox out there, and I would be very interested in finding somebody from one of these institutions that would be willing to talk more about how this all scales from their experience. So here's Valmyra City Council, 12 physical servers, running Proxmox VE with 120 virtual servers. So yeah. This one has 26 nodes and over 150 virtual machines. So yeah, there's definitely some range of scale for Proxmox beyond the home lab and the small business setting. So let's see. I'm curious to see Willie's Harvester video. I am watching out for that as well. Harvester sounds nice. Proxmox is a lot harder to manage at large scale. They are working on it though. Cross-cluster authentication and management. Yeah, I mean every option has its growing pains, and you know. I don't know how these larger installations that have 20 plus servers in place, Proxmox servers in place, how they're managing those. They may have some infrastructure that they're using to help with the authentication and whatnot. So would love to see some Kali demos. I've done a few of those. If you can tell me what type of demo you're looking for, I might be able to do something like that in the future, for sure. There might be a Zen Orchestra equivalent for Proxmox soon, and orchestrator tool. I really want to try Harvester. Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Next one on the list, one that I've covered quite extensively on here as well, is Rescuezilla. And so what I can say about Rescuezilla right now is that it's been almost a year since their last major update. But hopefully before March 5th, they'll release version 2.5, or at least another point release for small scale computer imaging. I like Rescuezilla. If you're training people that are less tech savvy and may not fully grasp what Clonezilla is about, you could probably put them in front of Rescuezilla and have them get the concept a little bit quicker. Of course, if they can't figure out Clonezilla, then you might be questioning what they're doing in IT, but that's a whole other conversation. So, Rescuezilla has been around for a few years. Basically, they picked up when the developer of a piece of software called Redo Rescue, or it was originally called Redo Backup and Restore, let the software sit idle for 7 years. And so the Rescuezilla developer picked up and started patching that, and then, brought Rescuezilla out, which then prompted the other guy to release a couple of releases of Redo Rescue, and then that has sat and collected dust ever since. So, I'm hopeful that somebody will either join the development team. If I had the programming skills to do so, this is a project I would find interesting to work on. Unfortunately, other than testing and raising awareness, I do not have the skill set for doing that. So, it's definitely something that I've covered, and when they release a new version, I will make another video. I will say that over here on their GitHub, they do have if I can put my fingers on it, Rescuezilla development. So they've got a bunch of options ticked off of things that they've been developing. I guess there's a bunch of them in green. The purple is the checked off ones. Yeah, maybe we'll get a new version of this soon. I hope we do, to rebase it on a newer Clonezilla, because this is in large part just a front end to Clonezilla proper. But somewhere in here, and of course I can't put my finger on it right at this moment, somewhere there is a they call it a rolling release version. Let's see if we can get it here. There's a rolling release version, which at one point it sounded like it was going to be weekly or monthly, and it's not something I would call a true rolling release myself, but maybe here. So yeah, 3.23 or 3.5.23 was the last version that was released. But the if we go back under releases, the developer did release a quote unquote weekly rolling release on the 26th of November, which brings up the version of Ubuntu it's built on top of to the 23.10, which will, of course, get you a newer kernel and hopefully work with newer hardware. So, yeah, that's one of those your mileage may vary situations. I really hope that we're getting close to a new version. So, anyways, that's Rescuezilla. Rancher has harvester integration, so you can run Kubernetes container workloads, but if you need a VM, it runs alongside it. Good to know. I haven't looked too far into it. Kind of waiting for Willie's video on that, which I think will be interesting. Kali sounds interesting, but I would need to see some demo videos. All right, I will definitely put that on the list. I've got installed on my Mac. I've got one tool that I've been using that comes with Kali that I've been using lately that I can show off later. Okay. So we'll move to number 5. Derek's Boot and Nuke. And of course, they've got a sales pitch to try to get you to buy the paid version. So this basically allows you to boot into a minimal OS and wipe hard drives and solid state drives. Of course, you go into the paid version, you can get DoD 5222.2M or NIST 800-88 certified wipes and things of that nature. But the standard DBAN version works in a pinch. For instance, if you were going to sell a personal computer on eBay, then you might want to hit it with DBAN if you're going to sell it with no OS. My thought on selling computers on eBay is throw an OEM version of Linux Mint or Ubuntu on it, and then when they take it out of the box, they're getting a new computer experience, and they have to set up their own user and their time zone and all that fun stuff, rather than, some of these rather amateurish companies that will load Windows on without activating the license and just things like that. If I were going to do anything with a Windows type thing, it would be including an 8 gig thumb drive with a Windows ISO on the thumb drive, and then if people want it, they can put it on themselves. Even then, I'm not sure that's the best idea, so I've not done it. But, yeah. DBAN is awesome, except it isn't allowed for commercial use. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. And what do they do for the trial? Do they actually get you anywhere? Free data erasure trial for enterprises. They probably don't give you any pricing whatsoever. They probably want a boatload of money for it. Yeah, maybe I'll have to make an inquiry on that. And see just how much it would cost for a small business or a nonprofit to get access to this. I'm definitely curious about it, but seems like I inquired before, and it was some pretty high dollar amount. That's so weird. Made to meet commercial specifications, but not allowed for commercial use. Yeah, Blanco is so expensive. Well, that tells me what I need to know right there. All right. So next up, we've got another. This one is free. This is made. This is Gparted. Made mainly for partitioning disks or resizing the partitions on disks. It does one thing and does one thing well. That's the old mantra of Unix, and I've used this before. I've definitely, when I was teaching, I exposed students to this, just so they had one additional thing in their arsenal of tools that they knew about before leaving my class. And you know, it's handy to have around. And you'll see the actual tool Gparted come up again on one of my other picks. But excuse me, for a free live ISO that does one thing, this is not a bad option. All right, so we're moving through the list. Let's see. Next one on the list, we've got LibreElec. This is if you want a simple way to get Kodi installed. This is a scaled down OS for running Kodi, which is a media center type system, similar to Plex and MB, I think is the other one. But you know, again, this is one of those things. If you are wanting to use this on a specific piece of hardware, you can. So they do have a USB creator for Windows, but you can download for Raspberry Pi. Obviously, you can run it on generic x64 hardware and some of these other, looks like most of these are going to be ARM-based platforms as well. So, you know, if you want to spin up something custom, you can do that, and custom as far as the hardware, but, you know, use something like this for your media system. And there are Kodi apps for, I believe, most set-top box Roku type devices. I'm pretty sure I've got their app installed on my Roku. I just don't have the media center up and running yet. I've been working too much on the ripping of all the DVDs and Blu-rays that I haven't quite got this far yet. But maybe we will do this in a future live stream and get some of that stuff set up. But Kodi runs on just about anything: Windows, Linux, Android, Pi, and Mac OS, iOS, tvOS. Like I said, I think it's on Roku as well. Yeah, there we go. How to install Kodi on Roku in 2024. So yeah, there isn't an official Kodi app for Roku. But you can mirror your screen from Windows, Mac OS, or Android to your Roku, and you're all set to go. But anyway, before we get too far off in the weeds, let's go on to the next item on the list. And that is Porteus Kiosk. This probably doesn't need a lot of explanation. A kiosk being a special purpose or some sort of a locked down machine. Currently at version 5.5 on the free version. And if you're in their paid tier, then I'm sure you can get a newer version. But basically, where I became most familiar with Porteus is we needed a computer at the library that was dedicated strictly to searching the catalog of items for the library, and for being able to, for patrons to sit down and order interloan books from other libraries. This is locked down. It can't be used for general web browsing. You can specify the, what do they call it now? Allow listed websites. Back in the day, but before the younger generations got offended about everything, it was called whitelisting, but we can't call it that anymore. I will say in some parts I am happy that the terminology is changing in the IT industry, because when I had to explain the IDE hard drives and the whole master slave thing to a group of students, which some of them, let's just say, were more melanated than I am, it was rather uncomfortable. And, you know, it's all good, but it's probably a good thing that the terminology for some of these things in the IT industry is starting to evolve with the times. You know, but hey, it's all right. Let's check out chat a little bit. It's the biggest ripoff in recycling business. I think Rossman made a video about it, if I recall. He makes a video about everything, it seems like. Porteus Kiosk sounds interesting. So I do have a video out here. About Porteus Kiosk. So I will grab that and drop it in the chat. All right, let's see what else we've got here in the chat from Mr. Joe. Can you use Porteus as a virtual receptionist, as in walk into a building, put your name in and what business you are here to see, and have it text that person/people? Uh, Potentially. That you would need some other back end system, so some other website that handled the texting part. But you could certainly have it load up a single web page for that purpose and have everything else happen in the background. I could see it being used as like registration at an event, for instance, for like a tech event or whatever kind of conference or whatever. I think that could be useful. Good afternoon, Brian. Welcome. Melanated. Never heard that phrasing. Well, I'm a proponent of the idea that there's only one race, the human race, and what really sets us apart is how much melanin is in our skin, which is basically determined by when our ancestors left Africa. We of the Caucasian persuasion left Africa sooner than our more melanated brethren, and as such, our skin tones adapted to living in northern atmospheres. So that's that, I guess. Doesn't Windows have a kiosk mode? We use that at work for Smart Card. Not sure if that's a Windows Pro or Enterprise feature. Windows can block sites too with internet zones. Yeah, but you've got to have a Windows license in order to do this. So again, I work at a library. Our budget is very tight. And when it comes to something like a kiosk, if I don't have to use Windows and the patrons are going to be none the wiser because it just opens into a full screen web browser, then I'm not going to use Windows. I'm probably the only one that knows the difference and knows that it's not Windows. Anybody else sits down and thinks it's a computer and, oh, it's a web browser. I can type stuff into it and go on. Melanated. Everybody's laughing at that today. I digress. Well, you have 5,550 subscribers and 555 videos. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that's counting this live stream that we're on right now, but the number's going up. The number's going up. I think I just hit 5,000 at the end of September. So I think the one of the tools I use called vidIQ, it set an arbitrary date of May 28th, I think it is, to hit 6,000 subscribers, and I'm not feeling like there's going to be any issue doing that. Yeah. 55, 50. I think I'm at 55, 57 as of this morning, but it rounds it off here. So yeah. What are the different versions of Porteus? So they have, I believe, a general purpose distribution as well. But for the kiosk specifically, they have the standalone kiosk. And so with the standalone kiosk, you basically have to reinstall when they push a new version. And that is how they differentiate their product line. So when version 5.6 comes out, then I would just, spend the 35 minutes or whatever it takes to install and set it back up to get to the new version. Not the end of the world, but at some point when we have more than one kiosk, then I will put their server into place. And so the server allows you to update your kiosks as far as configuration. I believe you've got to be on the paid version to do in-place version updates or any sort of live updating, but you can push new configurations to the kiosk nodes from the server, which can be useful. Again, I've only got one kiosk running at the library currently. It's a small building, and currently only one floor. So it's not imperative for us to have more than one at this point in time. We're not that busy of a library where we can warrant it. Now, once we get the renovation, provided that happens this year, and I'm really hoping that the bond passes in August, we'll have to see what happens then. I like Porteus, and I would prefer to continue using it. The way we've got things set up, our Active Directory is only for the staff side. We don't have any of the public machines connected to AD. And so I don't really want to go down a Windows path with this, which would probably make us go into Active Directory for the different kiosk machines if we did a Windows-based kiosk. So, anyways, they've got a cloud kiosk, which I believe is putting the server component in the cloud. Let's see. Built on top of standard Porteus kiosk, focuses on providing easy access to web services like Google Apps for Education, Jolly Cloud, OwnCloud, or Dropbox. So, kind of interesting there, I suppose. And then their kiosk thin client, again, built on top of the standard Porteus kiosk, and that provides protocols Citrix, RDP, VNC, and SSH. That could be interesting in an educational environment, I would imagine, but not anything I've used up to this point in time. Although I'm not opposed to trying that out at some point. So I think that's something you can grab easily, but I would have to take a look deeper into that. Oh yeah, you can download the latest Porteus Kiosk thin client variant. It takes me back to the same page. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. 55.55K subs with 555 videos. Yep. Then why can't I jump as high as melanated? Well, because white men can't jump, Joe. I'll say it. There was a whole movie about that. I just got to 1,484 subs. Very nice. What are the paid services? Paid services, you get automatic updates, which again is nice for a kiosk system. Not absolutely necessary, but nice to have nonetheless. The premium server. So you get an administration panel launched during system setup instead of the browser. For doubled security, manual customizations on the ISO level are not allowed. Porteus Kiosk server variant premium requires installation on writable media and has automatic updates enabled by default. And again, their requirements are low: 2 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of video memory. Not hard to do even in a VM these days. And they show a demo here in using VirtualBox, and they've got their little checklist of basic versus premium. So, but yeah, some of these features are nice, and provided we get the renovation funding through the bond, 300 euros a year is not an awful price. So anyway, let's move to the next one. All right, so here's another one that I've covered a good deal on the channel, OpenMediaVault. Again, we're sticking with Linux-based stuff today. So yes, I know TrueNAS Scale is out there, but and that is in fact based on Linux. I have played with it. I did not stick with it, but you know, if you're looking for an entry level sort of NAS with low hardware requirements, OpenMediaVault is not a bad place to start. And, you know, like so many other things in IT, you replace it when you outgrow it, right? So I've been pretty happy with OpenMediaVault. If we come over here, let's see. All right, I guess we're not going to do that. Anyways, they are real soon now, I would say, going to release the 7.0 version. It released candidate 1 since the 15th of January, so just a little over a month. I don't know if we'll see a RC2 or if it'll just bump to stable, but I've been pretty happy. I've got one of these B-Link machines here on my left side running OpenMediaVault, the 6.9 point something version. It's not been updated in a couple weeks, so it's not quite on this version yet. But mainly, I've put my ripped DVDs on this one, so I just wanted to have a stab at using it for that, and so far it's worked pretty well. Once I get the big Synology moved back into this room and hooked up to the multi-gig switch, I will probably move the movies over to that instead. But OpenMediaVault has been pretty solid for me, and I've had very few issues with it that weren't caused by my own experimentation. Um, so thankfully, when I do that type of experimentation, I spin up an OpenMediaVault instance in Proxmox, or previously I had used VirtualBox, and it'll run just fine there. You can test out the different RAID levels, or you can, go completely down the ButterFS path and test out the features with that as well. So let's jump back to chat. And I'm going to bring myself full screen for just a couple minutes. How does it compare to Unraid? I think Unraid is Linux based, maybe. I haven't run Unraid in more than 10 years. And the thing that I will say, when I did run Unraid, and I know they've changed a lot in the time that I haven't been running it. I liked Unraid when I was running it. And this was before they had added the ability to do Docker and VMs in Unraid. So OpenMediaVault right now is more of the traditional network attached storage. It's got some Docker capabilities, which will pop you over into, I believe, Portainer to manage it. I don't think it supports having VMs on OpenMediaVault, or not that I've seen so far. Whereas Unraid has those added features, you're also going to have a bit of a limitation on Unraid. There is a buy once, use for life fee. They do have a free trial, but if you want to attach up to 6 disks, then you got to go to basic, and obviously going above that gets you more disks. The free trial will let you put, 4 disks? I don't remember. Yeah, once installed, enjoy a free 30-day trial or purchase a license directly. So maybe they got rid of their, 2 disc or 4 disc option for the free version. And pushed it to that $59 level to set up your entry level box. That being said, I'm not opposed to picking this up in the future and having a play with it, or at least getting the 30-day trial and making a couple of videos. So I know one thing that I'd seen a video, this has been a few years back now, when they were doing the transition to the newer versions of Unraid. One of the things they were talking about quite a bit was that you could throw the graphics card in your Unraid box, and you could use it both for your NAS and for a gaming rig. I don't see that as being the most practical of uses. But your mileage may vary, to each his or her own, especially if you're on a tight budget and you're trying to cram as much use into one box as possible. It's just not my approach to things. And call me old school if you must, but I still like to have separate boxes or separate VMs or separate containers, some sort of separation I like to have between things. And I definitely like to have my main PC or desktop machine of whatever variety I'm running at the moment separate from network storage. So maybe I'm weird like that, but old habits die hard, right? Bob Carpenter spent a lot of time helping me a couple years ago. Nice. Maybe we'll have to get Bob on a stream and have him do a demo for us if he's the Unraid guy of the group. All right. Next up on the list, we've got Gparted Magic. So this ticks several boxes. It is a paid product for what you're getting, and I do pay for this, $49 a year. I like the project. I'm trying to support the project. I'm not the best about downloading the updated ISO images and keeping them around, but I'm trying to be better about that. So basically, you get Gparted. You get, last I checked, they were packing in Rescuezilla. I think Clonezilla is included on here as well. They've got a secure erase function, which I did notice, and I forget whether it was on an eBay listing or if it was on a listing for a used machine on shopgoodwill.com. One of them, they had actually shown a screenshot where they had used Gparted Magic and the secure erase tool to erase the drive on that machine. So, excuse me, it is out there and being used, for $49 a year. Maybe this is the next step up from DBAN. May not check the NIST or DoD boxes, but if you just want a entry-level secure erase, then it might meet your needs. It also has an NVMe secure erase on here. So, I can see where this may be useful. So, I've used it. Their current program list has all kinds of things on here. Scroll, and we're not even halfway down the page yet. But I believe Rescuezilla, they're still shipping an old version, 2.1. Clonezilla is at the 5.5 version. But yeah, they've got a lot of tools on here, and If people are interested, I did download the most recent ISO today. We could spin that up on Proxmox before the end of the stream if people are interested. So there's that. Bob loves Unraid. Good to know. And did you guys all tell me that Bob is also the guy that works at Lenovo or for Lenovo? So if I wanted to get the inside scoop on the small form factor Lenovo PCs, he's the guy to talk to. I believe somebody told me that maybe in a previous stream. But yeah, I'll have to see if I can't find contact information for Bob and get something going. Maybe he can come on some stream and do a demo of Unraid and talk about some Lenovo stuff. I think that could be interesting for a number of us. All right, so another NAS distribution. I have made, I think, 1 or 2 videos on this before. It's Rockstor. Again, it's a little more of the traditional type NAS, although it looks like they are starting to move into some of the hypervisor stuff as well. So yeah, there's a Docker plugin for that. Again, it is what it is. It's another alternative. Excuse me. So they've got specifically for traditional NAS, just works, get the best of Btrfs, and it talks a little bit about the features. They were early on adopting Btrfs. I think even before Synology adopted Btrfs, and definitely before OpenMediaVault adopted Btrfs. That is not enough to set themselves apart these days. Rockstor doesn't appear to be dead, unless 15.4 is an old version of OpenSUSE Leap. 15.5 is the newest version, so that's not outlandishly old. 1 point release isn't a huge deal. Stable release candidate. Oh, well, I guess that's been almost a year now. March 2023. Let's see. November 22. They have anything more recent? July 2023. So you're looking at 8-9 months since the last release. But you look at something like Rescuezilla and it's been nearly a year. Fog has been nearly a year. Yeah, they're on Mastodon, so maybe they're doing something. Well, that's April 23, February 23. Doesn't look like they've got much of a feed on Mastodon. So maybe we'll say that's on life support. Those are rock stars, Jay. Video killed the radio star. Har har. Always got a joke, Joe. Always got a joke. Okay, so this next one, I've not ever done too much with this. I think I've spun it up once or twice to play. SELKS is a Suricata-based intrusion detection system and threat hunting system built on Debian. So Suricata, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, and Stamus Community Edition. Stamus being the threat hunting piece. And their description: for many small to medium sized organizations, SELKS can be a suitable production grade network security monitoring and intrusion detection system. And because all the data available in SELKS is generated by the Suricata engine, SELKS is widely used by network security practitioners, researchers, educators, students, and hobbyists to explore what is possible with Suricata, IDS, IPS, NSM, and the network protocol monitoring logs and alerts it produces. So you can download it as a Docker Compose package, a complete image with desktop, and a complete image without desktop. And this is something I might do a dedicated video on at some point in the future, just to play around. I'm curious to see what it can do and what the learning curve might look like on something like this. But it's never bad to have another tool in your tool bag, things that you can use. So, yeah. Next up, we've got Zentyal or Zentyal, or however the heck you want to pronounce this name. So I've got a couple of notes on this. The current version is 7.1. Unfortunately, the company behind it that was initially based in Europe, my understanding is they're making a move to the U.S. or have over the past year been making a move to the U.S. and setting up a new support infrastructure and developers and whatnot. So the website leaves a little bit to be desired. You've got to hunt to find the 7.1 ISO image. I somehow found it once upon a time. I haven't been able to find it a second time. I did download it. I haven't played too much with the 7.1 version. Allegedly, version 8.0 is due out before the end of this month. And I'm adopting, and I'll believe it when I see it, outlook on this one. They've been a lot of talk and less on the follow through. So I am cautiously optimistic. That's the phrase of the day. Cautiously optimistic. Not an awful looking website. I think it could be improved. But yeah, they've got North America, South America, and Western Europe covered, basically. And so Zentyal, which is the way I'm going to keep pronouncing it, it's based on or built on top of Ubuntu Server. It uses Samba 4 for Active Directory. You can use the management interface that's built in. It's a web-based interface. For a lot of things, you can also use the Windows Remote Server Administration Toolkit. which gives you things like being able to manage users and groups, different things of that nature, to a remote server. So you'd install it like on a Windows 11 machine, and then you can connect to Zentyal, and for the amount of items that are supported, you can manage those remotely from a Windows box. But since it's got a web-based interface, if you have access to that interface, you can access that from your Windows box as well and use their web interface to configure other things. Since we only have a staff of 6 at the library, I have thought about dumping Windows Server and moving to Zentyal, perhaps coupled with a network attached storage solution. But I haven't made that decision yet. So, and I'm waiting to make that decision until I find out what the 8.0 version is going to turn out to be. My understanding is the 8.0 version is still going to be based on Ubuntu 22.04, even though it's going to release basically 2 months before 24.04 is released to the world. But since they were originally going to have 8.0 out before the end of last year, you know, any bump in version is going to be a good thing overall, provided that the quality of the system doesn't suffer. So that's Zentyal. It's again, I've got on my channel, I think 7.0 was the last one I used. And they call their community edition the development edition. It's basically the version that has no support. They did previously call it the community edition because you can see that my previous videos called it the community edition. And I've made a few on Zentyal, as you can see. But we'll see how the 8.0 version comes around, and there will be videos coming on that. I really wish I could get my hands on a preview version of it. I even expressed interest on their Facebook page or group that I'd like to be able to review it and, you know, push out a review video by the time or shortly after their release, but I have not heard anything back on being able to do that. So I tried to bring you something new and different and cutting edge, but when the powers that be don't work with me, it makes it more difficult to do such things. All right, next up, and then we'll look at chat again. Turnkey Linux. I can't even tell you how long I've been using Turnkey Linux. A lot of years. Probably 10 or more. So Turnkey makes a bunch of things available. And a lot of these are available as ISO images, so you can install your own on physical hardware. So take Observium, for instance, which is a network monitoring and management system. The 17.2 version is available as an ISO. You can also deploy it to Amazon EC2. If you go back to the 16.1 version, you can see that they've got pre-built virtual machines. And you can, on some of their appliances, you can get just the VMDK image. So, you know, I've found this to be interesting and useful when testing, or if you're setting up temporary infrastructure for a short-term project. Something like some of these could be perfect. They've got a standalone file server, which is, again, a simple network attached storage. SMB, FTP, NFS, and WebDAV, and rsync file transfer. Interface is not going to win any awards on beauty, but it's functional and stable. At least the last time I tested it, it was. You know, they've got OpenVPN, they've got a domain controller built on Samba 4, OwnCloud, OpenLDAP, and the list goes on and on. So, if I were to mentor somebody who is just getting into virtualization, I would probably walk them through doing a couple of turnkey appliances before I turn them loose on something like a straight up Windows or Linux install. Something that's a little more controlled, a little more predictable than some of those installs can be at times. And it not only allows them to set something up with virtualization, but get practice with networking and different things as well. Did not exist in 1999 when I started with VMware Workstation, but probably it may have been like 2005 or 2008 when I first started discovering Turnkey Linux. And that reminds me another one. Bitnami is similar. They also have pre-built VMs. Most of these are available as VMs. There is a lot of overlap with what Turnkey Linux offers. I don't know how long this is still going to exist, because if you see the logo up here in the corner, it's Bitnami by VMware. So you probably don't want to bet your world on this at this point with Broadcom taking over VMware. In fact, I will try to control myself and maybe stop talking about Bitnami going forward. But it is still out there, at least for the short term. But the way Broadcom is killing things off on the VMware side, I wouldn't be surprised if Bitnami ends up on the chopping block. So let's jump over to chat here. Let's see. My Sea Prince, welcome. A year since last update. If it ain't broke, why mess with it? Better than having continuous updates and then having to relearn something as they decide to change things. You've got a point. I just wish on some of these projects there were at least security patches happening. Excuse me. Hold that thought for just a moment. All right. I'm glad you were able to join us today. One of the reasons I wanted to try this earlier time is just to see if people from across the pond might be more interested in joining at a time that wasn't 2:30 in the morning. So apparently it worked for one, anyways. And it looks like we've got 13 people watching at this point. We're over an hour into this. Thank you all for sticking around for this. Hopefully some of these special purpose Linux distributions have been useful. Maybe a few you haven't heard of yet. So I've just got another handful on the list, maybe 4, I think. Yeah, we'll probably have this wrapped up by 4:30 Eastern time. So, which will be right around the 2-hour mark. So, hey, imagine that. Since 2 hours is what I seem to do on these live streams. So, all right, let's. Oops, there we go. I'll put myself back up in the corner. So the next item on the list is VyOS. This is the open source fork of a product called Viata. And so VyOS has more of a Juniper type command structure compared to a lot of things that use more of a Cisco-esque command structure. They have been working on a web interface for VyOS for a number of years. I don't believe it's actually been finished. Their LTS release is 1.3.5. They do have a rolling release, both of which are free downloads. They have some bigger companies on here that are using them, but it is a very command line driven router / firewall OS. I have covered this on my channel before, but it's been 5 years ago. Yikes. I guess I need to put this back on the list to cover again. It's been 5 years. The videos didn't do awful, getting above 1,500 views, but again, in 5 years, that's not awesome either. But I'm kind of curious to play with this again, but in the context of Proxmox. So they've got a bunch of things that's supported under Hyper-V, KVM, Nutanix, Oracle VM, Oracle Linux KVM, Proxmox VMware, XCP-ng, and Zedata. I've not heard of that one, but all right. All those cloud options there. I've never heard of Flow Swiss either. And of course, bare metal if you want to build a big bad firewall appliance using this. You can. But they have the tagline, built by engineers for engineers. So if you're not a network engineer, maybe a little bit of a learning curve to get up to speed with it. Now, I will say I've had exposure to Cisco stuff in the past, and I've used Viata before it went closed source and VyOS was forked. And in all honesty, I find the VyOS and Juniper structure for the commands, if I'm doing a straight command line setup, I find the Juniper approach and I'm pretty sure that's the one that it's modeled after, to be more straightforward. That's just me. Your mileage may vary, but if I'm not using something with a web interface, this is probably what I'd be using. So, and who knows, I may, excuse me, I may attempt a project later in the year that does something with VyOS. So we'll see, because I do have a couple of these B-Link mini PCs sitting around that have dual Ethernet on them, and so I could spin it up on a low powered box like that, and see what I could do with it, and maybe put a couple boxes behind it, and go from there. But could be a fun project, and allow me to dust off some of my command line networking chops in the process. So, so as I was compiling this list, I came across a new, to me, distribution. This is called Raizo. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, but their last update was January 7th of this year, 2024, based on Debian 12 Bookworm. And so what this is it's a Linux distribution that has GNS3 set up for you. And GNS3 is a GUI used to manipulate simulators/emulators of networks and systems like QEMU, Docker, and Dynamips, which, if you're not familiar, you can run Cisco iOS images, I believe, on Dynamips. So basically, you can set up a virtualized or simulated network and test different things out. Also includes tools to interact with real devices, Minicom, PuTTY, Wireshark, and other network type services, DHCP, DNS, FTP, TFTP, HTTP, and SSH. Services are not started automatically. Used by CFA, UTech of CCI, and seen at Marne in France for networking and Linux administration classes. And I probably butchered the name of that, but I'm not French, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm not French. I don't speak French. I've never taken a French class. I'm a Western European mutt by descendancy. And sometimes I'll actually admit to my 3% Irish heritage, but only on St. Patrick's Day. But fun fact: one of the ancestors I found that were from England. I don't remember what part of England, but their occupation was listed as fishmonger, which had two meanings. You were either a vendor of fish or you were a pimp. So, who knows? Here are some screenshots of this in action. But yeah, GNS3 allows you to do all kinds of stuff, and can be very interesting for learning in a simulated environment before you're beating on real hardware and pulling out hair. And if you've ever guessed why I don't have any hair, well, taking classes, learn or teach Cisco is enough to make you pull your hair out. I'm not a fan. Let's check out chat, and then we'll wrap up with the final two. Did you see my comments a few videos or community posts ago? Yeah, I think I gave them at least a thumbs up. If not, I apologize. I've been a little under the weather the past couple of days. Some sort of stomach bug or flu or something going around. So, but yeah. I remember VyOS from like 10 years ago. Yeah. Well, like I said, my videos on it are 5 years old. So, you know, just thinking this is a little advanced for me, but interesting. Putting timestamps would help in search. Not sure what terms to use. Yeah, on this one, I may go back and add in the timestamps. I generally don't do timestamps on live videos. But this one I think may be useful enough, or else I may take and just chop it up a little bit and do like 2 videos that have 5 of the items in it, and repurpose it as just long form videos that I can put timestamps in a little easier. I haven't completely decided on that one yet. Western Euro mutt. Yeah. Well, you know, I call it the way I see it. My heritage is mostly English and German, and a little bit of my grandmother's side of the family is from the Netherlands, I believe. And I'm sure there are trace amounts of other nationalities in the family tree somewhere. Yeah, nothing terribly exotic. I'll put it that way. You know, I wish I had some Italian heritage, because then I'd have good hair like you, Tony. Would love to see a video on VyOS. All right, I will scribble that on the whiteboard. And Callie was mentioned by Joe. So there's definitely a couple things I can do there. The one comment I did was quite long, but hopefully will help. Yeah, I'll definitely take a look back at that. Like I said, I've been under the weather. I know I caught the one where you mentioned that my 9:30 videos or live streams were 2:30 in the morning for you, which was part of the reason I did this at 2:30 in the afternoon for me, which I hope made it a more palatable time for anybody coming from Western Europe. And, you know, I do have a few viewers from across the pond, but I find that a lot of my non-US viewers, I think Germany and India keep flip-flopping for the second and third place title. You know, and hey, look at that. We were briefly up to 14 people watching for a couple seconds there. All right, we have 2 items left, and then we will do some Q&A for whatever time remains until 4:30 Eastern, and then wrap this up. So the next one on my list is Tails. So this is a Linux-based OS that you would generally not install on your computer, but you would write it to a USB stick. The idea with this is that it's supposed to provide extra security. It does have Tor available by default, and it's built on top of Debian. Secure your secure computer anywhere. Shut down the computer and start on your Tails USB stick instead of Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. Of course, this would mean an Intel-based Mac. I don't believe they've got a version that will run on ARM yet, or Apple Silicon more properly. But I'm sure that's going to come at some point. So the last update was 6.0 release candidate 1 on the 2nd of February. The stable version is from the end of January of this year. And of course, if you're an activist or a journalist and need to hide your source, domestic violence survivor, or whatnot, or Edward Snowden, then this might be the Linux OS for you. It's not the prettiest thing, but it does what it's supposed to do, what it's designed to do, very well. So it leaves no trace on the actual computer. You run it off a USB stick or a external SSD. Basically it doesn't leave any traces behind. So you can have persistent storage if you have some files that you want to take along with you. Has some security stuff built in. Tor browser, Thunderbird for encrypted mail. It's got LibreOffice, Onion Share to share files over Tor, and Metadata Cleaner to remove metadata from files. Applications are blocked automatically if they try to connect to the internet without Tor. And so allegedly you're leaving no traces on the internet. So if you're in a category where this would be useful, or you're just paranoid for whatever reason, it might be worth a try. I've got it on this is only USB 2, I believe, but I've got it on one of these little guys. So I can, attach this to my ThinkPad and use it on there if I want. It is slow booting off this thing. I've not tried it on a USB 3 stick or an external SSD, but any of those would be faster, especially if you're running it over USB 3.2 or faster. So again, if you're sufficiently paranoid and think this would be a good fit for you, then it's worth a look. And the last item on my list, got to throw a bone to the Canadians. This is NEMS Linux, and basically what this does is it lets you take a single board computer like a Raspberry Pi and turn it into a network monitoring system. It's built on Nagios Core. If you want to get it, they have mainly the single board computer versions are available for Soho and hobbyists, and then paid versions are available for enterprise, virtual machines, and AWS. I am a supporter on Patreon of this project since pretty early in its development. I do not have it running currently. Another on my list, my never-ending list of projects that I want to undertake, but need to sit down and actually carve out the time to do it. And perhaps putting some of these projects on my calendar would give me some incentive to do it. So, but anyways, that's my list. Take a look at chat. I didn't know it was happening. Your live stream was presented after something I was watching. Maybe schedule 9 p.m. UK time. There is a very popular live stream that might be some of your audience. Okay, interesting. I'll have to take a look and see what might be streaming. Because that would so you're 4 hours difference or 5 hours difference from me, so right around now is when that would be starting. So couldn't find an email. I have Instagram. All right. All right. So let me bring myself back full screen. Let's see. So one of the things that I did, it's 21:18 now. Okay. One of the things that I did mention earlier, and I guess I can take myself small again, is one of the tools from Kali Linux, or at least I discovered it on Kali Linux. Is a tool called ARPScan. And so I'm actually going to do this with a purpose. So what this does is it will do a scan using ARP protocol or address resolution protocol of the devices on your network, and it will, by default, it will display it on the screen. Now, here in this example, I redirected it to a text file so I can view the text file, and it shows you the IP address, the MAC address, and the manufacturer. If it comes back unknown, then it's likely you've got an off-brand device that might be Chinese in origin. But as you can see, there's TP-Link on my network. There's Google and Buffalo and Supermicro. and Ubiquiti and Roku and Wise. But one of the things you can do with a tool like this, if you redirect it to a text file like I did, is you can use the diff command in Linux. Seems like they've got something in Windows that if you type in diff, you'll get the PowerShell equivalent command. But diff allows you to compare two text files. So we'll compare arpscan2.txt and arpscan3.txt, and it should show the differences between the two files. And so it appears one of my Wise cameras is jumping between a couple of, or maybe that's not a difference. They've got different MAC addresses, but this item here should be, I'm hoping it's one of my, or hoping it's my B-Link that is running OpenMediaVault. And if it is, I can't connect to it currently. So I will have to do some additional investigative work. So anyways, you can use this as a quick way to scan your network. It runs much faster than Nmap. But with a more limited focus on what it's doing, I guess is the way to put this. Again, not a bad tool to have at your disposal. It runs on Linux, and you can get it on Mac OS by using Homebrew. I don't believe there's a Windows version. It is in Kali Linux. So this is probably the GitHub project. Last release was December of 2022. And available for Linux, BSD, macOS, and Solaris. So it seems like I was doing a search and there was another tool, might have been by the same name, that was a Windows only tool. ArpScan Windows. So I may be wrong about that. On the Windows side, they're pushing you towards a lot of commercial products that are going to cost you a bunch of money. So, yeah, your mileage may vary. Oh, here we go. ArpScan Windows. This is from 2 months ago. ArpScan is for Windows only, supports x86 and x64, and very simplified syntax. But if you want something for your Windows machine that's similar to the Linux equivalent, this might be worth a look. Yeah, their README file doesn't say a whole lot, but yeah, and it doesn't appear that this has had a lot of development or any releases. So you may have to compile it yourself. X64. Oh, there is an executable file. I don't know yet as though I would trust that on a machine I care about. Maybe if I spun up a Windows VM and took a snapshot before installing this or grabbing this file, maybe I would consider it. But since there's so little history for this command, I'm a little suspicious of it. Again, your mileage may vary. Take your own risks. Yeah. So, all right. I guess that's enough of me talking. It's been just about 2 hours. Does anybody have any final questions, comments, suggestions? I've got on my whiteboard for VyOS and some Kali demos. So if there's anything else that you'd like to see, I will take any requests that you've got now, or you can head over to the channel page, and you'll be able to grab my email address off here. If you click the view email link, you can get my email address and correspond with me that way. I am continuing to try to make some changes to this channel. Okay, I will put that on the list as well, Joe. Porteus Kiosk. I think I tried that in Proxmox, so it shouldn't be a big deal to do a demo on that one. I'll just have to grab the ISO image and spin it up again. No big deal. So one of the changes I will be making is it was suggested by the person that did my channel audit to put some sort of a slogan or keywords on my channel banner. So I'm going to have a play with that and see what I can come up with. And if I can't make anything that looks good, starting with this as a base, I may be reaching out to my friends at Capture the Concept for some guidance on that. I'm not. I haven't had a lot of success in coming up with a phrase or keywords that I'm really happy with. So it might be something where I experiment over the course of the remainder of this year, and maybe I do multiple different options and see what sticks. If YouTube could just roll out their A/B testing feature sooner than later for thumbnails, I would be a very happy camper. I know that thumbnails are not my strong suit, and so if I can, have that ability to test the thumbnails, or better yet, have YouTube test multiple thumbnails, I'm all for it. And hopefully it will point me in the right direction. I didn't see the email. I will email. I had looked at your website. Very good. Which version of Speed Test Tracker are you using? The Henry Whitaker one is not being actively developed. I am using the one by Alex Justesen, and I'll drop a link in chat for that, Tony. Take you to this GitHub. But this Alex Justesen, this developer, is pretty on top of it. His last updated version was 2 days ago. So if that tells you how on top of things he is. So yeah, I've been very pleased with it so far. Put something in the channel banner, you can always change it. Yeah, that's my thought as well. I'll come up with something. It seems like at one point I may have had something in there before I got this banner, but I'll have to go back in my old files and look and see what I actually had. And look at that. We've made it to 2 hours and almost 2 minutes, and we've still got 13 people hanging out with us. I'll give one final call for questions or suggestions, and then we'll wrap this up because I feel like I need to get out of this chair after sitting here for 2 hours. Much more comfortable to sit for long periods in the living room in the Lazy Boy chair, which I'll probably relocate there with my laptop, at least for a little while. Maybe get a snack. But this has been fun hanging out for sure. Let's see. I wish I can keep my LTE speeds tracked, but it can kill the traffic momentarily for anyone using it. Yeah, that's an unfortunate side effect. I guess at that point, if you're on an LTE connection, what I would do is schedule it in such a fashion that it runs the tests like overnight or during the lunch hour when you're going to have few people using it, or other times when it may not be being used as much. Thanks for keeping me company as I figured out how to output video on a DeckLink card using FFmpeg. Ooh, that sounds like a project. Is that going to be part of your next live stream, Jay? I need Speed Test Tracker to not use a local server. The local server sucks. There is... in the Alex Justesen version of Speed Test Tracker, there is an option. And I don't have my Speed Test Tracker window open, or do I? Maybe? No. I may have that Docker shut down at the moment for some reason. There is, if you log in to the administrative side of it, there is a place where you can select the servers you want it to test against. And you can take out their default servers. And I did that with mine. I don't know if that's why I'm having an issue right now, but I used the command line version of the the speed test from Ookla, Ookla. They've got a command line version for Linux and Mac OS. I'm not sure if that's also on Windows. But using that tool, you can get a listing of the numerical values for the servers that it tests against. And then once you have those, that list of servers and the ones you want to use, you can put that into Speed Test Tracker and replace the ones that it has set up by default. So that's maybe that's something I'll have to go into in a video and show that config side of things. So in my case, the speeds vary a lot based on who's home in the area. Yeah, I can imagine that as well. Oh yeah, 100% making a video about this. Good deal. I found it. There's a big university near you that has a great speed test server. Are you talking about the one in Ann Arbor? That's not as close to me as the other big university, but that's all right. I think you can report the server and get it removed. Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. See, David, that's why we keep you around, man. Always coming up with good ideas. All right. And just about the time we're going to wrap things up, we're now up to 15 people viewing the stream. So maybe 3 p.m. Eastern would have made a better starting time on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know. Yes, I was referring to the big house one. Yeah, well, the one that has a mascot that's a rabid dog, or a rabid canine breed. Anyways, I don't tend to speak too highly of that school. My brother went there, so he went south, I went north, and both of us have degrees from in-state universities. All right. Thanks for coming in, my Sea Prince, and Ron, and everybody else, Tony and Jay and David, and hopefully I didn't miss anybody else, and Joe, and Brian, if you're still around, and Terrell, who was here at the beginning at least. Appreciate all of you. If I can get a like on the way out the door, that would be great. Yeah, the plan is to be on tomorrow night again at 9:30 or 9:45 p.m. Because I normally go live after the StreamYard live stream on Sunday nights, and have some fun and go from there. But yeah, I'll see about maybe chopping this one down into smaller chunks that are a little more digestible, and go from there. Yes, Eastern Time, 9:45 p.m. I try to put that in my descriptions and things, so yes. And Jay says, I hate that school, but their servers don't suck. Yeah, well, when you've got a sports team that's funding the or bringing money into the school the way theirs does, then it's no wonder their servers don't suck. And on that note, thanks everybody for watching. I will hopefully see some or all of you tomorrow night, and who knows? I've got a couple tricks up my sleeve for some interesting topics to talk about now. Have a good afternoon, everybody.